Hello guys. Um, this will be the first lesson of the How to Clash Royale series. So let's hop over to my newly made account. Um, and my account is called Train Phones. It's a level 2 account. And first of all, I'm just going to show you a couple of games I played, and the games I played are pretty basic. And first of all, well, I would like to discuss a couple of points on the basics of the game, and that will be the topic of our video. So, how do you start playing Clash Royale? Well, first of all, when you start playing uh, multi-layer show so 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 online, there is something called a trophy mode. First of all, you will play 5 games in the training camp. Then after the training camp, you will begin to start playing the, the ladder, the trophy mode. Um, I want to show you the first couple of games. First of all, the first game. Right? Okay. The first game is against home. First things first, we're going to start watching our elixir management. We are going to try to not leak uh, elixir. Second of all, we're going to try to do defense properly. Um, so we're going to create counter pushes after a successful positive elixir trade defense. Then point 3, we're going to create a very strong offensive push by placing a tank called a giant right in the back, but after that we will support the tank with support cards, like the musketeer. So, first of all, we're going to load it, and then we're going to place level tank way back, um, creating a big solid push. Okay? Um, then you can place the musketeer, right? To just DPS down his troops. Now you can place a knight right in front of the musketeer to tank up shots and to simply just beat him. Now he's going to play the DRs, which is a really good move. What I should have done way back is I should have played the skeleton army way earlier, way up, instead of way in back. And what I should have done against that mini pack was just the fireball. But we are going to take some shots from the baby D with the knight. And now we are just going to reset and place a tank way in back. You can see the resistance from the back way in back. This is not a really good move. The following is that I just play a skeleton army with a really bad archer. So it's going to be cleared up the right way. And what I would like you to notice at this point of the game, um, that is the fact that I have way more elixir than my opponent. My elixir bar is currently at 9 and this is at 3. So I currently have a 6 elixir beat, which is not good for him. Okay, so I'm going to play the skeleton army to keep my knight healthy and that I can just play a giant in the back. He's going to play a very aggressive fireball with bears. And right here you can see that I just do a ton of damage and he's forced to spend that. Let's play a giant right at the bridge and he's going to try to DP down the giant. With the musketeer which is just it's going to so this is my first win where I just using the three most important important basic rules of Clash Royale, not needing elixir. The second one is using defensive troops um, uh, with a counter push, and um, thirdly we start with pushes way in the back. So that's just really, really a something to do. The second match we actually play one is the following. We're going to wait a little bit and then he's going to play a fight. And he's going to activate our King Tower, which is just not a good move to make. Because now my King Tower is activated, which is good for me, but not so much for him. Because my King Tower is now going to help with defending my crown towers. So now I simply put a giant in front of my musketeer to soak up the damage from the archers. You can also see that the knight is actually targeted on the musketeer, which is really good, really good. And the musketeer gets 3 shells and you can see that the Lindsay is getting swamped by those little skeletons. So now I'm leaking a little bit, but now the most optimal move is to just play the minions just way back, just taking it easy, taking it slow. Then he's going to play another fireball, which is again just not a good move. What I think another beginner to do is they actually use their spells way too aggressive, while troops can actually do way more damage than spells when used properly, right? Um, Spells are primarily just good for taking out opponents' troops. So try to think of spells as a counter to swarm troops or mid-sized troops that guide, uh, guide usually to fireball, like the musketeer or the wizard, or for, for, for example. You can see that we three-count our opponent. This is just very, very nice. Um, the final game I want to show you is actually one of the better games where you can actually see uh, the basics of this class the most. You can see that the opponent, Leon, uses a giant. What he does best do is he stacks his giant, his archers, plus his enemy to weapon together, so I can hit it all with my arrows. So that's just not a good move. He's going to give us quite a hard time with his giant with the counter push is simply just going to take this down. So we actually traded like 600 HP um, uh, to actually take this through directly with a counter push, right? So that's the second principle of this lesson. You can actually see that I just let him take my tower because I simply just want electricity. You can see that my electricity is really, really big. You can also see that the giant, you can actually tank the shots. So my electricity is simply a lot. Um, I have a lot more on board and a lot more to come. He's going to miss his fireball, so that's a negative one electric trait. You can see that real-life can use counter his troops very easily. My knight is going to try to defend. Uh, he's going to let the tower focus. And you can see that I just try to really calculate because arrows were a little bit handy for my fast. And you can just see I have a lot more on board and a lot more relation to come. And you can see that I never need much wish piece with my you just keep rolling and rolling because I have a lot more board plus a lot more in my bar, right? Um, so we are still using the three basic uh, principles we saw, not not leaving uh, count, counter pushing with uh, your main deep troops like the musketeer and turkey. We are creating big pushes with that when we don't have um, um, defensive troops uh, left. so that's a good game, good game. And those are the three principles we are going to follow when pushing to the bonus. So let's just play some root Clash Royale. Okay? So I'm going to press the yellow button that we are facing happy in this in 95 wave level. So let's just cycle the spear goblins here. So we can just damage them. Okay, now he's not doing anything. So we're simply going to put the giant backsword on the right side. He's using his minions, but that's actually not going to do much. See? Because the minions are very weak and they are swarm cards, meaning they do a lot of damage, but their health is very low. And you can see that you can use the minions in combination with with a tank, such as a giant. So let's just play the giant riding pockets, so we can actually do a lot of damage. So the second thing is we need to counter is giant. How do you counter the giant? We counter the giant with the skeleton, right? Right. And now we can just simply tweak that. Okay, so this was a relatively basic simple victory for us because we stick to the three most important principles of the game, right? And when you are just starting out with like Clash Royale, um, the most important thing, thing is to be patient, to watch your to have a solid understanding and execution of your elixir, your defending weaponry, so not too much with just the right amount, and you sometimes counter push or you play you think of the glitch when you're defending musketeer is um, crossing over and pretty much alive. And the second this was to just slow rolling, so you just start your pushes weighing down. Right? So that's it for now. Um, so that's the first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will be, be back soon. Bye guys.